2, 1. All right, welcome everybody. It is Thursday evening again and 7 o'clock. As usual, we have our webinar. It's going to be tonight on foundation work, how to know if you need foundation work, and a lot more. Presented to you by our special guest speaker tonight, Alex Dela Torre with Trinity Foundation Repair.
Yeah.
So, Alex, you're there tonight.
I am. I'm excited.
Fantastic. We are too, and we'll really just get cut right into it. We're going to do a Q&A session after the presentation is over, so feel free to use the chat on the lower right or the right side of the webinar. Go to webinar to send direct messages to me, and we'll get those presented and answered before we're done tonight. So, Alex, go ahead and take it away, buddy.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Hey, Adam, I appreciate you having me on. I'm always excited about talking about foundations. Needless to say, I appreciate any time I get a chance to talk. So I thank you and Prosperity Group for that. I just want to take a minute to say that my condolences to you guys. I've said it to you guys individually, but as a group, for the loss of Jim Kennedy. He was a good friend of mine and a mentor of mine too. So
Thank you.
I'm sorry to hear about his passing away.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go. For those of you that are logging on, thank you very much for being here, and let's get going. My company is Trinity Foundation Repair. Bear with me a second. I'm not getting through onto. For some reason, I can't make this thing. Oh, there it is. All right. My company is Trinity Foundation Repair. We've been in business for over, 14 years now. Long time. I used to do remodeling before and also do foundation work at the same time. And, luckily, God's helped me and was able to branch off from remodeling and just stick to straight foundation repair. One of the things that makes us different is we've been in business for again, 14 years. I've been in the construction industry my entire life. And we are one of the largest foundation repair companies here in Texas. People don't really know that, actually, but we are because we are in all 4 major markets. We're in Houston, Austin, Dallas-Fort Worth, and San Antonio. One of the things that will make us very different than any other company out there is that we only work for investment homes, and we only work on vacant homes. So if the house is occupied, we don't work on it. And you ask why. The main reason is because we use a construction project insurance. So our losses would only be on a vacant house, and that's how we can get a better price on insurance from our company, General Liability Insurance. And in turn, we pass that savings on to our clients. I'm a member and also vendor at almost all the local real estate investment groups in Texas. So not only here in town, but basically all over Texas. And I'm also an active investor. The reason I bring that up is because when I look at a house, when I started the company, I did it because I was tired of having to pay other foundation companies to do the work when I knew it wasn't that expensive to do it. And back then we were paying, $400 a pier. You could even pay that now if you wanted to, but back then there wasn't an option to go with a cheaper, with a wholesale price, if you want to call it that. And that's why I started Trinity Foundation Repair. So let's get into it. One of them, I guess most of you that are here are not here just to learn about how to do a foundation repair, how to find out if you have a foundation problem. It's how to make money doing it, okay? And most people that I know, most investors that I know, are scared to death of foundation problems, and they won't go after these properties. And I've been lucky enough to be able to speak in many places, and I always ask these people. Let me ask, if I had a room full of people, say, hey, how many of you are actively looking for houses with foundation problems? And I would tell you that maybe 20% of the room raises their hand, and usually that 20% are clients of mine. So I bring that up because you should be looking for houses with problems, roofing problems, termite problems, mold problems, fire damage houses, but particularly foundation problems, because foundation problems are actually one of the easiest things to fix. If you don't realize this, it's not a complicated thing to do. It's just you need the right team. You need the right contractor, and that's obviously why I'm here. Also, most people think that foundations are expensive. And it really is, except if you use us or someone like us that give you wholesale pricing. We prefer to work with investors, and we structure our entire business model to be able to give investors a better price. So in that regard, you're getting a better price for the repair, but you don't have to tell the person you're buying the house from that you're doing that. And that makes it where you can negotiate a better price and, of course, increase your profits. And then the key is this. You need to have a reliable contractor on your team. Of course, I like to tell you to call me because, I'm biased. But on that note, I'll tell you, even if you went with someone else, you need to have a company that has done this for a long time, that can do the work according to FHA standards, and I'll touch that here in a little bit, but also that's going to be around on the back end, meaning, we've been around for 14 years. We're not going to go away. So there's a problem, and we've run into problems. We deal with them. We fix them. And that's important because that warranty has to mean something to the buyer. Keep in mind, you're going to sell this house. Well, just think about your buyer. He needs to have some form of surety that that company's going to be here, if there's a problem 5 years down the road. Stop me if I'm going too fast, Adam, but, I just get excited and I get going. So let's talk about a little bit about the type of foundations that there is here in Houston. Again, I can talk about other parts of the state another time, or if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. But here in Houston particularly, there's actually 3 types of foundations. One of them is pier and beam, and I don't have a picture of it. That's why I didn't put one up. But pier and beam is where they have a concrete beam all the way around the exterior of the house, but the middle of the house is actually on blocks. And if you guys can see the blocks on the left-hand side, that's basically what the middle of the house would look like on a pier and beam house. And this is actually what's called a true block and base house. And any of you've ever bought houses in the Heights, a lot of them are actually just like this. And if you go, out into the outlying counties here in Texas, most of them are going to be on this type of a foundation. The one on the right is a slab foundation, which is the most common one we have here in Houston. Most houses, I'd say 95% or 90% of the houses here in Houston, particularly if they're tract homes, are usually going to be slab foundations. And you can see a perfect example. That's basically you just have a big concrete slab, and then they'll build a house on top of that. Usually they pour it first. Okay. So how to know if you have foundation problems or have some foundation movement? There's a lot of telltale signs, particularly, if you've been around looking at houses here recently, some of you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. I put up some of the pictures that I felt are going to highlight, and they're a little bit exaggerated, of course. They don't normally look this bad, but what you do see is on the top right-hand corner of the doors or windows, you see cracks on the sheetrock going upward, or vice versa, going downward too. That's usually a sign of movement. Now, not every time you see a crack means you have a problem, or anyway a big problem that needs repairing. Here in Texas, the soil shifts. The soil moves up and down. And when it does, and that's normal, by the way, when the soil expands and contracts with the weather. That's normal. That's going to happen in every house here in Texas. But what you have is you don't want it to expand and contract too much or too quickly, because that's what causes foundation failure. And when you have failure, that's when you need to repair it. But to get some signs, usually doors and windows are a good sign of it. If you have doors that are hitting and they're not latching properly. Another good one, believe it or not, is if you look at cabinets, the cabinet doors. If you started looking at them, you could see how they're basically not squared off or leveled off correctly. That's another good one. I mean, one of the best ways to know is if you feel like you're walking uphill or downhill in a house. That's obviously a major sign of foundation problem. But there's no true way to know for a fact what kind of problem you have unless you get a company out there to do what's called an elevation survey, and that's what we do. So this is just kind of, if you see some of these things, that should flag you to call a professional out there. And most companies, including myself, are going to go out there for free, particularly for investors. We want your business. So one of the things we do is, if you call us, we'll be out there within the next 24 to 48 hours to get you an estimate. And one thing you'll find with us in particular, I pride on this, is if it doesn't need work, it doesn't need work, and we'll tell you that, and we won't sell you anything more. I mean, we're not there to tell you foundation repair on the whole house. So what causes foundation problems? I put up a couple of pictures here of what I thought were extreme cases. They don't normally have to be this bad, but this is a pretty good example. If you look on the left side, you have a tree that's built and got, this isn't an isolated case. You don't understand how many houses I've seen that have those big old 50-year-old oak trees that are standing, sitting right next to the house, about 2-3 feet away. If you look at the roots, I mean, they're basically growing underneath the house now. And the reason they do that is they try to find moisture, and they go underneath the house to get the moisture. That's a horrible situation. And the reason why it's a bad thing is because these trees are sucking moisture from underneath the house. And when you suck moisture from underneath the house, what it does is allows the foundation to start failing. So it's not like the tree root is making the foundation fail. It's the moisture it's sucking out of the soil. And the soil, of course, is where the foundation is sitting on. It contracts. And when it contracts, it allows the foundation to fall. Now, what happens a lot of times, and if you look on the right side, so on the right side you have a plumbing break that we found that was underneath the house. And the problem is you don't know that this is going on. But when the foundation settles, a lot of times what it does is it causes the foundation to break, the plumbing to break, I'm sorry. When the plumbing breaks or separates, and now all the water that you use, think about it. When you take a shower, when you take a bath, when you use a washing machine, whenever you wash anything, it all dumps out underneath the foundation. And when that dumps underneath the foundation, it allows because of the way the foundation is built, meaning it has a beam underneath it, it's not just a flat slab, it actually has, it's kind of like an upside down pool, if that makes any sense. All that moisture traps underneath the house and has no way to get out. And so what it does is it just loosens up all the soil underneath the house, and then it creates it to where it fails, dramatically. This is where you hear houses that are 5, 7, 8 inches off. Usually when that happens, the reason for that is because it was probably a plumbing leak that caused it to get that bad. So in recap, the two reasons why you have foundation problems is because of not enough moisture or too much moisture. So it's trying to find an equilibrium. Oh, there it is. I guess I repeated that slide. I'm sorry. So when you find a house that is going to need some form of, let's say you have evidence of some movement, and you call us, we'll come out and check it. And in that yellow machine that's in there in the middle of the room is called a CompuLevel. And what we do is we come out and shoot elevations of the foundation. Okay, so we have to be on top of the foundation. And we shoot elevations of the foundation, and then we move throughout the entire house. And as we're shooting elevations, basically we're taking those readings and finding how high or low the house is. In a case where a house is more than 1 inch off, within 16 running feet from the box, that's going to require a pier. And whenever you need a pier, any area that's off more than 1 inch within 16 running feet, we need to put 1 pier every 6 feet to lift that area. That helps support it and lift it properly, and it also avoids having it fail. So again, the reason we use the 16 running 1 inch within 16 feet, that's what FHA guidelines are. And I say that, and you'll see just a second, we need to go by FHA guidelines in order for if you're selling the house or you're refinancing the house, that's when it matters to have the house done according to FHA guidelines. So how we fix it? What we do is we put piers in the ground, and a pier is basically cylindrical. It's basically a cylinder that's 6 inch in diameter by 12 inches high, which we push into the ground using a hydraulic ramp. And we push them into the ground literally one by one, and as they go down, we're pushing them to what's called the point of refusal. And what that literally means is we're pushing it using the weight of the house to the point where instead of driving the pier down, it actually picks up the house. So it can't go any further down, so what it does is it actually picks up the house. Keep in mind, these rams are running at about 10,000 PSI. For those engineers out there, that's a huge amount of PSI. Usually concrete is built, regular concrete is about 5,000 psi. The way these cylinders are built are engineered, and also the way the slabs are engineered, they can take about 8 to 9,000 psi before they actually shatter. Literally, the concrete would shatter. Well, we drive to the point of refusal just before this actually starts happening. So we're driving pretty deep. I mean, in some cases, we're doing a house in Dickinson today, and I mean, we've driven it down 23 feet, just to give you an idea. The normal or average here around the Houston area is about 12 feet, give or take. Some areas, in some parts of the house, will do 12 feet. In other areas, will do 10 feet. And in other areas, you'll do 15 feet. So the moisture that's underneath that slab is what makes it also go deeper, if that makes any sense. So why you should repair the foundations and why that matters. So here's the deal. If you buy a house, first and foremost, if you're going to buy a house that has a foundation problem, the only two ways that I know that you can buy it are literally you're paying for it cash, and it doesn't matter to you if it has a foundation problem, or you're using a hard money lender, which is a short-term loan, usually a 6-month loan, and you've got to refinance out of that loan into either a permanent loan or sell the property. And this is where I feel a lot of investors. I actually have a video whenever we send you an estimate. I include some videos in there, and I talk about the problems that a lot of people have when they don't fix the foundation up front, and then later they try to sell the property and they catch the foundation problem. I mean, I've seen people go in and put $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 rehabs and then not fix the foundation. And in turn, on the back end, they can't sell the house because no bank will finance it. I mean, they probably did a wonderful job and they have buyers lined up, but no one can get financed because the banks are not lending money on a house that has a foundation problem. So it's a big deal. Don't skip this step. Not because I want you to call me. Obviously, I do, but trust me, I've had people come and tell me they'll offer me double what I normally charge if I can fix a problem for them, and I can. But when I tell them, listen, I'm out. Don't pay me extra. Save your money because I'm going to destroy all the remodeling you just did. You're going to have to pay a remodeler to come back out and do pretty much everything we just did, flooring, paint. If you have granite, the granite can shatter. If you have a new roof on it, the roof will bust up. So there's a lot of damages that we can cause if you're not careful and not doing, you don't do it in the right sequence. Meaning foundations should always be done first. And again, FHA will not insure a house that has a foundation problem. So any lender that's going to comply with FHA, guidelines will not lend money on a house that has a foundation problem. The other thing too is if you have a rental property and you have a foundation problem, it could generally be fixed with about 10 piers. I mean, I think, we've done jobs as small as 10 piers all the way up to 20, 35 piers. I mean, depending on the severity, but when it's not bad, meaning it's only about 1.5 inches off. I think I did a job for Tim not too long ago where it was only 2 inches off. We put 20 piers across the back of the house just because it was real wide. But I mean, that was a real quick fix. I think they spent, $3,000 to fix it. Here's the problem if they don't fix it. He actually had a chimney on the back of that house. Had we not gone in there to fix it at the time we did, that chimney would have continued to fall. In fact, if anything, it probably would have gotten worse. And then later, we could have not fixed the chimney at that point. And worse off, if we went in and fixed the foundation, the chimney might have even toppled over and fallen. And you can imagine, to save $3,000, now he would have had to have a chimney rebuilt, which could have been a lot more than $3,000. And on top of that, he would have still had to pay me the $3,000 anyway. So we went in there, fixed it for him, and I don't know if he sold it or rented it out, but the bottom line is it makes it to where you can avoid bigger problems down the road if you address them up front as a rental property. On the other side of that is eventually you're going to want to cash out of that rental property. When you do, that foundation needs to be fixed. So, even if you're not fixing it now, make sure you don't let it get too bad, because if you do, what will end up happening is it'll make it a bigger problem, a more expensive problem, I should say. The other thing is, a lot of buyers, especially if you're retailing your house, I mean, if you have a foundation problem, you didn't fix it. This is where a lot of people that are coming in and trying to fix a house for them after they remodel it, the problem they're running into is they don't keep in mind is, buyers are not stupid. If they feel the house is off or it looks like the house is off, it's off. And then the buyers are going to be scared of buying that house. So to save, and just throw a number out there, to save $3,000 of foundation work, you're now not able to sell the house. But think about it, how much in holding costs you're spending to save those $3,000. I mean, if you're like me, you're buying a house, $150,000 house, that you're holding that house for 2-3 months extra. There goes your $3,000 when you could have just sold that house and moved on to the next one. And guess what? If it has a foundation problem, you're going to have to fix it anyway. So it goes back, it's kind of like back to one, where if you have to fix it and you already remodeled it, you're going to end up with a problem of also fixing the foundation and then having to come back in and remodel it. Well, here's how we can help you. We give free estimates, meaning if you have a house that you want usually we usually wait for you to make an offer on it, even if you don't have it in a contract, but you made an offer on it. Or if you have a wholesaler, we work with a lot of wholesalers already, meaning we'll give them estimates to include in their packet. But if you have a wholesaler and you can get us in there, we'll go out there and give you a free estimate before you buy it, before you contract it, so you know what your rehab cost is going to be going in. And I'll tell you a funny story. I've usually found that foundation repair is not the highest budgeted item on a rehab. And I tell you that from my personal experience, but from other people. Foundation, generally it's our average cost for foundation repair here in the Houston area is generally about $2,200. So, I know they spend a lot more than that just to paint the house. I mean, if most people that I know are spending somewhere around $3,500 to paint a house. I mean, think about it. Foundation repair is a lot cheaper than that. I mean, flooring, Jesus. I mean, I know people that spend, $8,000 on flooring on a house. So in the scope of things, we're not the most expensive item on your to-do list. The other thing we do is we give we give lifetime service agreements. Meaning, when we finish the job, we give you a certificate that goes on to. We actually put the certificate on the property, not on the person. So meaning we don't put it on you. It's actually on the property itself, and it stays with the property. It's a lifetime service agreement. What happens there is, if there's ever any problems down the road, whenever 5 years down the road, the buyer of the property has a problem, they can call us and we'll come back out there and take care of any problems, any adjustments that are needed. On that note, too, if it does need additional work, we'll be able to offer them additional work if that's necessary, too. And again, being in business for 14 years, I mean, I've heard this term in the industry. People laugh about it, but how good's your warranty? Only till the taillights of your truck are seen. After you can't see my taillights, you got no warranty. Well, and I've seen that happen many, many times. Companies come in and do a bunch of work, charge less than what we charge, or for that matter, sometimes even the same price, and doing 2 years worth of work, and then boom, disappear. I mean, you would be surprised how many companies I've seen come and go in the last 4 years. So be careful with that. I mean, again, I'd love for you to call us, but even if you don't call us, go with a company that's been around for a while, because whenever there's a problem, we're not going to go out of business over one call, to adjust the foundation. I keep stressing about FHA, and again, the reason I stress that is because the only reason you should be doing foundation work is because the foundation is off more than FHA guidelines. So we always do, every time we give you an estimate, we always give you an estimate according to FHA guidelines. And you say, well, how do they know? How do you know? How will I know that you did it to FHA guidelines? Well, because you're supposed to, whenever you do a foundation, you can bring in a structural engineer. And in fact, most mortgage companies nowadays, I've seen it as a huge shift. Almost all mortgage companies are now asking for an engineer's report after foundation work has been done. And I am proud to say I have never failed an engineer inspection. We work with multiple engineers all over the state. In fact, I've built such a good relationship with them that a lot of times they'll even call me and ask me about how we're fixing things whenever they run into a situation that they don't see. I mean, we're fixing, if you take all 4 major metropolitan areas, we're fixing probably about 45 houses a week. I mean, a lot of them. So the short version of it is that we get calls from engineers asking us for advice, and vice versa. I mean, I've made some pretty good relationships with engineers along the way. I've also had some that I butted heads with, but at the end of the day, theory and practice are not always the same. There's always a little bit of shift in theory and practice. I've learned how to be able to communicate with them so that we don't butt heads and be able to get things done, which ultimately means getting you the inspection report that you need to be able to sell the house. On that note, we do things right. So other things that we do to help, to after the foundation work that's done, or a lot of times, you'd be surprised too, a lot of times fixing a plumbing leak, installing a roof barrier, or installing French drain could be after the foundation work. But I'll tell you, in my personal case, I own a foundation repair company, as you know, and I've never put a pier underneath my house. And that blows a lot of people's mind, because the reason is I've learned how to control the moisture content around my foundation, so that I do what's called watering your foundation. For those of you who've heard of the soaker hoses, I have soaker hoses around my foundation, and I put them on when I need to. And I haven't had to do this, but I wouldn't be against it. Put a French drain whenever you have a lot of moisture. You're on the side of a hill, or your property slopes forward, and all the water on the back of the property runs right up to the back of the foundation. That's a big problem. That usually causes the house either to heave upward or to fall, and that can't be fixed with the foundation repair. What you need to do at that point is put in a French drain, and we can help you with that too. And I'm proud to say that our price is one of the lowest prices in the industry. I mean, in general, in fact, I could tell you that I've been the mark for every foundation company out there. When we first started, we were the lowest price in town. We've gone up a little bit since we started, needless to say, because costs have gone up. But we still are, as a reputable company, we're the cheapest price out there. And the second thing is, I don't want to be the lowest. I want to be one of the best, and also I want to have a great reputation in the sense that whenever there's a problem, we're going to be here. And with our pricing right now, it's at $155 a pier for a foundation here in Houston. But that $155 a pier, what I show people a lot of times, listen, the cheapest competitor I have right now is about $135 a pier. Okay, if you take that number at $135 and we're at $155, the difference is $20. If you multiply that times 10 piers, which is a small job is 10 piers, that's $200. $200 is the difference between getting a reputable company and getting someone that could, like I joked, that the warranty might only be as good as as long as you can see the taillights, you got a warranty. As soon as the taillights are gone, that's it. There goes your warranty. So I say that jokingly, but I mean I've seen that, and it's funny how for literally $200 we have been undercut, and our clients go somewhere else, and when they call us and they want us to come back out there, it's usually because they had a problem with that other company. So here's my contact information: Trinity Foundation Repair, 281-221-2166. I'll repeat that: 281-221-2166. And of course, our email is trinityfoundationrepair@gmail.com. trinityfoundationrepair@gmail.com. We don't have a website. I've never built one. In fact, I was joking with Adam earlier that this is actually the first PowerPoint I've ever done. So if anybody has any comments on that, I'll take them. But on that note, I want to go ahead and open it up to questions if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. Appreciate your opportunity to give us some information on the foundation side of this business. It is definitely a spot where you want to start, but not be scared of. So I think you really landed that point home. So from everybody out there that is paying attention to this, whether you're new to it or you've been into it for a little while, or you feel like you are kind of getting your experience to the expert level, what kind of questions do you guys have? You can throw them into the chat box. It just seems to work better writing them in versus we all kind of talking over each other. So go ahead. I've messaged each and every one of you directly. I think I've got everybody so far, but if not, don't matter. You can go in the lower right section of the webinar, hit that chat box, and go ahead and send me any questions that you may have. We'll give some people an opportunity to type anything right now that they have.
Adam,
yeah.
I want to throw in there, emphasize the fact, when I first started investing back, this was back in 2001. That's I don't know if Tim's around, but that's back when Tim still used to go to the Rich Club meetings.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So, I was afraid of foundation too. And keep in mind, I didn't own a foundation company back then, but I was afraid of the cost and I guess the entire package behind the foundation repair. I'll tell you, it changed my game, and I'm sure everybody I've ever done business with that didn't do it before or after they took, I gave a presentation and they heard me say this: hey, look, go after houses with foundation problems, because what you're going to do is you're going to find less competition. You're getting a good price from someone like us, and on that note, you're going to get houses at a deeper discount, and you can, let's just give an example. You'll pay for 20 piers, you'll pay, I don't know, $3,000, and you can tell the client you're going to pay $15,000, and they'll believe it because that's what they hear. And you're going to get that $15,000, so that $12,000 spread is just more profit for you. And you're not lying to them. I mean, there's companies out there that'll charge you, $15,000 for a foundation repair. So people should not. I want to stress that one of the key things that I want people to take away from this presentation is you should go after houses that have foundation problems, because as an investor, you're going to get more bang for your buck.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'm glad you hit on that point, Alex. And that's one of those things in this game. I call it a game. I think life is a game. I think it's how you play it, not in a lighthearted way, but in a fun way. Is the industry, and how do you separate yourselves? So knowing the fact that we are going into these homes and dealing with these motivated sellers, in a sense, finding the different ins and outs of how to get that best price. We're not out there trying to beat them all down to get as low as price and make them not get what they're worth, but at the same time we're in it to make as much as we can and to pass on that savings to our end user, whoever it's going to be, if we're wholesaling or if we're doing the rehab ourselves. So when we're looking for cracks in the wall, we're looking at cabinets. Foundation is definitely one of them, and it's one of them that you can leverage, in a sense, in some of those conversations with a seller to get that price point down where you want it, to make it attractive for whatever your strategies are.
Right.
So we do have a question here, and I want to bring it up, is how much wait time is there on getting the job started from the time the estimate is accepted by the owner?
So if I understand the question correctly, how much time from when they say, hey, we'll take you, we'll sign on to do the foundation work with you, to we actually show up to do the work? If that's the question, the answer would be, right now our lag time is probably a week. Keep in mind it's one of the slower times of the year. If you call us in summer, it could be up to 2 weeks. But right now, if you said, hey, Alex, I got a house, I'm ready to go, we could be on site with next Thursday.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, that's a good question. Because this is all scheduling, this is all timing, and you got to be able to put these in order in the right places, like as you mentioned. So thank you for that question. Again, these are great questions from the audience here, from the attendees, that whatever you have in regards to foundation questions, this is a good time to do it. But so about a week or so, and then what is the busiest time of year, do you say, would it be for your work?
It's always summertime. It's for every takeover. Yeah, it's just in real estate in general, summertime is the busiest time of the year. And at that, one just touching back on that question.
Yep.
And you mentioned scheduling. So what we always suggest, and we'll usually do this through email communication with clients, is, we send them an estimate. We figure that when we send them the estimate, that we'll usually try to ask, hey, did you have this house under contract? If you do, when are you closing? And we'll kind of put a little reminder to touch base with them about a week or two before. Hey, did you close on that house? Are you going to be closing? And then they'll give us an idea. Hey, yeah, I'm closing next week. Okay, great. Well, let's get you on the schedule now. If you're gonna use us, let's get you on the schedule now, so that when we literally try to work with our clients where we're touching the ground on their property the day after they close, because we yes, time is money, especially if you're using some form of private money or hard money. every day, literally every day, is worth about $60, $70 depending on the loan. So we're coordinating for us to be on their house, on their site, the day after they close. And in some cases, I've got clients where they're walking out of they're, hey, I'm on my way to the closing table, send your guys out, or they'll say, hey, I'm going to close on it next week. Let's just say, Monday morning, I'll confirm with you. Can you schedule me to start that same day? And we'll be literally standing around on the property waiting for him to call us, walking out of the closing, say, hey, I signed, I'm ready to go. And we'll start working at that time. So we can work real close with anyone, and we're pretty flexible. Again, being in the industry, myself being an investor, I have seen pretty much everything. And I try to work with people on how to, again, I've had where we, vice versa, been on a job site and they call us and say, hey, it hasn't funded, there's a problem, and at this point we're digging holes. We stop and walk off and just wait for them to call us back and say, hey, it's mine, go ahead, go back out there. So
yeah, that's good. No, that's good. And speaking of which, so let's say a job's 4,000, 5,000, 8,000, 10,000, whatever it is. What kind of payment schedule does a foundation company like yours expect?
So what we normally do is we ask for half up front, half when we finish. We used to only take checks and cash for projects. We recently started working with credit cards. There is a small fee for that. Obviously, it's a convenience fee. And we always try to keep the cost as low as possible, but we do now accept credit cards, which we didn't before. But one thing we'll do is try to work with you. So, for example, if you have to, and this is what I've seen a lot, where they're waiting for draws to be able to pay us, and I mean draws from a hard money lender or from a private lender, to pay us for the foundation work. Well, we tell them, listen, if you want, put the front end of the cost on a credit card, and I'll wait for the second half when you pass your draw. But I mean, you schedule, so we'll coordinate with them to get them on the site the very next day after we're done, so that way they can get a draw and pay us, and when we're done, and of course reimburse themselves or pay their credit card off. But we'll work with them as far as depending on the lenders. Or I mean, I know most lenders here in Texas really will coordinate to get their schedule done, so they don't have to come out of pocket too much.
Great. Good feedback. Appreciate that. Another question we got coming in is, how long does it take to go and do an estimate? And I think another question I'm gonna kind of add on to that one from one of the attendees is do we or the investor need to be present for the inspection? So how long to take to go and do an estimate, and then do they need to be present? How does that work?
Wonderful question. Actually, I think that's one of the best things. Let me answer the second question first. So do they need to be present? No, not at all. In fact, most of our estimates, I tell you, probably, most of our clients, we've got a lot of clients that we do a lot of business with. So they just call me and text me address and lockbox number, and we'll get out there by ourselves, do the estimate, call them back with the estimate, or send it to them via email.
And Alex, let me just jump into that real quick. So that is because it's absentee owner, it's a non-occupied owner?
Yes.
What if they have an owner that's present, that's living there? How do they work around that, or are you not the company for that?
No, yeah. Well, so let me clarify that question in particular. So if the client is asking us to go look at a house and the house is not vacant, we'll go in and we'll get the estimate, and we won't discuss anything with the person that's there or living there. Particularly if the client says, hey, look, I need you to go get this estimate, but don't discuss anything with them. Just bring it back and call me or give me the estimate personally. So we won't touch anything as far as, how many years, what it's going to cost, none of that stuff. Because you're right, that I'm trying to help you get accurate numbers for your negotiation, but I don't give them any information, so that way you can, again, use the fact that other companies are charging a lot more for the foundation work than what we charge. So just to give an example, if we went out and I looked at it out and says, hey, it's in real bad shape, it needs 35 piers, and that 35 piers for you is going to run you $5,600. You tell them it's 35 piers, going to run you, $16,000. We won't discuss that with them at all. So you get that information. You can do whatever you want to do with it, which I would obviously say use it for negotiating and getting a better price on the house. going back to the original question, no, they don't need, the client does not need to be there. If it's occupied, we'll knock on the door. Obviously we'll ask to have it coordinated with the person that's living there, because we do need access into the inside of the house. And then, we'll call them back and tell them. For those of you that want to come, that's fine. We have no problem meeting you out there. In fact, we prefer, not that we don't want to have clients come out, but we prefer when they're not there, because we can go in and out quicker. Because we do spend time with people whenever they do come out to educate them a little bit on what we're going to do, how it's going to happen. And of course, particularly if they want to use us, we'll even talk a little bit about how the process would work once we get to the job site. So,
okay.
We cater to the client.
And how long does that take typically for once you get out to a site to do an estimate?
So one of the questions was, I believe, how long does it take for us to go out and do an estimate? So if you call us today to go out and look at the house, we'll generally be out there within, I'd say for sure guaranteed 48 hours, but in most cases 24 hours. Depending, of course, if for example, if we're going to be in Baytown tomorrow and you have a house that's in Sealy, well, I mean, it's going to be impossible to get to your area of town, so we'll come out there the following day. But generally within 48 hours you have an estimate. And then as far as when we get to the job site, if there's no one present, we can get it done in 15 minutes, and we generally spend up to 30 minutes with a client if they want to, have questions or what have you.
Okay, that's good.
And from the moment we walk out of the house, I mean, usually if we look at it today, we'll have an estimate in your inbox today, a written estimate today.
Okay, that's good. Good. Okay, we got another one coming in here. In a case where the homeowner would want to see the estimate, and I have told them more, would you be able to give me a retail estimate? So I guess, in other words, you kind of understand what they're asking?
Now that person that's asking, yeah, I do. And I tell you what, that person that's asking that question. So here's a 2.0 tip for you guys. That's exactly what a lot of these wholesalers are doing. In fact, that's what I do myself. So a lot of these guys are coming in, and when they contract the house, they'll come back with an estimate that's higher. We'll provide that for you to help you negotiate. And in that turn, yes, the answer is we'll give you a retail. So we'll give you the right price that you're going to be getting, and of course we'll give you a retail price to use to negotiate a better price for yourself.
Right. Okay. Good question. Good question.
And again, I get that from a lot of the wholesalers. That's one of the biggest, I think that's kind of what made us famous initially, was we were definitely willing to do that. And I don't want to name anybody right now, but yeah, I tell you that we do that pretty much every day.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. One of the things that I was curious is obviously is your that they may want to know too is your business hours.
Great. Yeah. Normally I have I would say from 9 to 6 are office hours. We tend to get to job sites somewhere around 9:30 once we start a job to physically get present on the job site. And the guys will probably work digging holes to about 6 o'clock or so. So it's about the same time, 9 to 6.
Okay.
Monday through Friday is the office is open, and on Saturday we do work on the foundation, but you probably won't get anyone from the office at that time. Saturdays.
All right, that sounds good. Kind of hang tight here. Anybody else have any other questions out there? Feel free. We've got a few more minutes left here with Alex. What part of town do you see, I guess, maybe the most need, if you will? Because I know a lot of times in this industry we're looking at zip codes. What zip codes are hot for investment properties? What zip codes do you typically find yourself in?
Good question. I would tend to say that most of the south side, I'd almost like to say, if you take I-10 and slice the city up, pretty much everything on the south side of I-10 tends to have more foundation movement. We do jobs on the north side, but they don't tend to be as big. So the amount of failure is not as much, and we don't do as many jobs. I mean, if you put it on a ratio, we probably do 4 to 1. I mean, we'll do 4 jobs on the south side of town and 1 on the north side. Why, I don't know, but I'll tell you if I'm speaking from the south side of town, I mean I-10 South. Jesus, from Richmond, Sugarland, Missouri City, Pearland, got all of South Houston, Pasadena, LaPorte. I mean, I can go on and on anything that says South. Funny story is, it kind of stops right about Texas City, because from Texas City on, you get that sandy clay from beach sand clay, or the beach sand for itself, and you don't get a lot of movement from beach sand. And here's a funny thing that I've told people in the past, if you guys have never seen this before, but we have this black clay here in Houston, actually pretty much all over Texas, but in particularly here in Houston. For those of you that have actually been walking around the mud, a perfect example is, or actually let me metaphor it this way. If you pick up mud, black mud from the ground, and squeeze it, that mud will find its way out and from any cavity. So it'll come out the side of your fingers, it'll come out the top of your hand, it'll come out the bottom, because that sand just expands. And so what it does is it finds a way to get itself out. That's kind of what happens with the foundation when it's wet underneath the house. The foundation will start squeezing that out. If you take beach sand, if those of you who have ever been to the beach, and you grab beach sand and you put it in your hand and you squeeze it, what it does is it actually tightens up. And that beach sand, down towards Galveston and anything near the coast, it doesn't move. You can hardly have any foundation problems down there. But as I mentioned, that black gumbo that black clay is what tends to cause the foundation failures.
Yeah,
and there's more of it on the south side.
Yeah. The type of soil, the type of clay, the type of earth that it's on makes a big difference.
Right.
And probably also how you water it too, as well, and when.
I should do a video to explain how I do it, because again, I've been lucky to not have any foundation piers underneath my house. But it's funny, and I've had a lot of people come up to me, usually engineers, and say, hey, I've heard that if I do this, and this, I'll never have a foundation problem. And I turn around and say, yep, you won't. Because the content of the moisture is what stops foundation from moving so much. So it won't stop it completely, but it'll minimize it. And that expansion and contraction, so just to give you an example, when they build a house, it's obviously flat and level, right? As that expansion and contraction starts happening, 5 years later, it'll be half an inch off. Well, another 5 years after that, it'll be another half an inch off. So now you're at an inch. And then another 5 years after that, you'll be at an inch and a half. What I've seen in the past is it takes 15 to 20 years to get to about 2 inches. But at 2 inches, that's when the pipes start breaking. And when that break happens and that moisture goes on there, you'll see the house go from 2 inches off to 5 inches off within about 3 years. And the reason is the moisture that's getting now underneath the house. So that expansion and contraction, and it happens. I mean, it happens all over Texas. If you can control that, you'll never have a foundation problem. If you don't control that, you're going to have, in the beginning, some foundation problem, but eventually it's going to get dramatic. And that's what people say, well, how did it get to be 5 inches off? Well, it didn't start there. It started at a half an inch, every 5 years or so. But once it hit 2 inches, the pipes burst, and then boom, it just takes a dive. I mean, it goes from 2 inches to 5 inches within a matter of 3 years.
Good old preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
Couple more questions here, and we'll wrap it up. Obviously, the answer is yes to this, but go maybe just real quick into it, and then we got one more question to wrap it up. Will the weather have any effect on your work schedule, and how do you determine that and work with the investors to make sure that they stay on track for their their jobs?
That's the
$1 million question.
No, here's what happened. Last year, I God knows I've never seen it rain so much as last year.
It was.
And it threw us for a tailspin that we didn't recover till just, I'd say, November. We don't work in the rain. Our equipment doesn't allow us to, and just the sheer liability of having a guy get injured. So we'll do some things, very minimal actually, but usually when it rains, I mean, we can't work in the rain.
And that's across the board, right? That's all foundation work.
Yeah, that's usually, I mean, pretty. For those of you that work outside, pretty much anybody that works outside, roofing, siding, I mean, if it rains, they
Right.
usually are not going to work. So yeah, particularly in foundation, that's I think we're pretty much even Steven with any other company out there, unless they figure out a way to do this underneath a tarp or something. Because what happens is you can't even dig holes because as you're digging holes, the water just starts falling into the hole, and I mean you're spending more time getting the water out of the hole than you are actually digging holes. So it's counterproductive, really. But yeah, rain does affect us a lot.
Okay. Yeah. So it will definitely affect the work schedule, and then just work with the investor, your customer at that given point in time to what the new estimated completion date would be.
Right. One thing I'll tell you is we commit to whenever we're on a job, we won't get off until we're done. So if we're on it, you're lucky because we'll be there till we're done. If you're not on it, it's obviously going to affect you. And so in that case, I've actually had the courtesy to call clients and listen, man, we're not going to catch up. I know you're waiting on us. It's already been 2 weeks. It doesn't stop raining. Here's a couple of phone numbers I'll give you of other companies that do foundation work. Call them. They might be available. I mean, I don't know. But if you want to wait, we'll get to you. I just don't want you to think that we're blowing you off. It's just I can't get to it any sooner.
Right. Right. No, that's good. Then we'll wrap it up here with this last question. Any other quick follow-ups that you have for us? Should we expect a 2-story house to be more expensive to repair the foundation than a 1-story?
Great question. Only if it needs interior piers. If it's an exterior, it's still the same six piers. I'm sorry, one pier every 6 feet. Because of the weight, and if it fails on the inside, usually we'll need more interior piers to help carry that load. But if it's just exterior piers, it's just a couple inches off. No, it's actually the same price. It's only when you're adding we're having to put interior piers to help offset that weight.
All right, fantastic. Well, I think we did a real good job of covering a lot of questions, a lot of territory here. Foundation, again, like you expressed at the beginning, is not something to be afraid of, and is actually it can be a very, very key negotiating point to get a little bit better of a price. So don't ever be afraid of foundation, but you also have to have the right team on your side in this regards.
Right.
So.
Right.
Good deal. Well, hey, any other closing remarks that you have for our audience tonight?
No. I just want to thank you guys very much for having me. I hope that you guys took as much as you could from this. And of course, for those of you that have any specific questions that weren't answered, feel free to reach out to me at trinityfoundationrepair@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to answer those separately. We're as investor friendly as you could possibly be. And on that note, we love investors. So, good luck hunting. Like you mentioned, it's a game. For me, it's actually a hunt. So
yeah,
I love for people to go out there and hunt for properties. And it's kind of we're here to be a part of your team, and we're looking for you to be successful, because what's going to happen is you're going to go out and buy more houses with foundation problems, and we'll make you a lifetime client of ours.
There you go. Win-win. That's a good sign. Cool. Well, Alex, hey, I appreciate you very much. Thank you for everyone that attended. This is Adam Metzer on behalf of Prosperity Real Estate Group. It is time to wrap it up. We are done for tonight, and we will see you all again in the next webinar. Take care.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you.